Alright folks, hopefully that title got your attention, because today we're going to be talking about a certain demographic of people who have caused a lot of problems for heavy metal and the world overall, but we're not going to get into all that. We're going to be discussing the boomer problem and the negative effects they have had on heavy metal over the past few years, and really decades, if we're being honest. So, now, before I continue onward with this video, if you are, or happen to be a boomer watching this video right now, I am probably not specifically targeting you. I think I'll be addressing the boomers who have ruined conversations about heavy metal with their bad opinions and talking about their overall music knowledge or lack thereof. I'm talking about people who say bands like Exodus and Testament are underrated, and people who say Master of Puppets is the greatest thrash metal album they've ever heard. I mean, I can't stand when people say stuff like this, because they're supposed to set the standard for heavy metal going forward, and how can I have faith in these boomers when they say stuff like this? I mean, the fact that Eddie Trunk was able to get as popular as he is just goes to show how little the majority of metalheads actually know about heavy metal. I mean, and then you got the Rolling Stone magazine, made by and for boomers, saying that the top 3 best guitarists are Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. Saying things like that and constantly talking about overdone subjects like the Big Four, things like that should be a thought crime for the metal community. And I'd argue that most of the people who made these opinions at the time, since they grew up in the 70s and the 80s, most of them were on drugs when they came up with these opinions. So that's what's really going on. These people are coming in, they're bringing their thought crime to the metal community, they're bringing drugs, and some, I assume, are good people, but they have no place talking about albums or genres. So here's my solution to the boomer problem. Millennials, Generation Z, we gotta get organized, alright? Now, of course, we're not gonna agree on everything, because how could we? But we're gonna be the generation that keeps heavy metal alive. Now, of course, we didn't invent heavy metal, and we don't have as much life experience as some of our older friends in the metal scene, but there's a lot of young people out there that are listening to albums, going through bands' discographies. Some are even writing their own music, making their own bands, contributing to the metal scene, like the new wave of traditional heavy metal, which is the most recent and relevant revivals of heavy metal. So this is going to allow us, thanks to platforms like YouTube and Spotify, we're going to make our own platform. We're going to make our own presence known online, because that's how music stays alive these days. And we're going to prove that we actually know more about music than boomers. Now, honestly, there's a lot of older people out there that just because they saw Judas Priest live in their prime, 1984, they think that's enough. The fact that they bought these records when they first came out, they think they know everything. But do they know anything beyond that? Do they know the difference between death and black metal? Do they know the difference between Euro and US power metal? I think most boomers saw their favorite bands on MTV or heard their songs on the radio and decided that's enough. That was as far as they needed to go, as far as getting into music. But for my age group, I think we do a little more research. I think we have a little more time on our hands to go through all the obscure and underground bands that Eddie Trunk had never even heard of. And I think we have the advantage because we were born into the digital age. So we actually have a lot more knowledge in comparison, and I think we know way more about music, and more specifically heavy metal, compared to our older, fatter, balder baby boomers who ruined heavy metal.